I'm Mike Lee. I'm a food product designer, and I want to start off and share a story about the first thing I learned about food and innovation and food vision. In 1940, my grandfather, him and his three brothers left Hong Kong, left their wives, left their kids behind, and came to Detroit and opened up one of the first Chinese restaurants in Detroit. His friends thought he was crazy because if you think about where all the Chinatowns were back then, they weren't in Detroit. And in Chinese, his friends would say, "Why are you going to Detroit? There's nobody there like us." And back in Chinese, he would say, "Because I don't want to compete with your asses." He cleaned up. They built one of the most successful Chinese restaurants in Detroit. By 1967, my grandfather had to buy a bulletproof vest because he was rolling out on a weekend with a cool 20 grand in cash. It did a lot, and it really shaped my worldview. It shaped my family. It made me who I am today. But it was a really early ambient example of what it meant to have vision and what it meant to see something that wasn't there and have the audacity to build it. Fast forward many years to growing up in Detroit, one of the things you just do is you go to the auto show all the time. And I wasn't really a car fanatic, but the thing that I loved about the auto show was things like this, the concept cars. It really blew my mind, especially at a young age, that this huge industry, which is just as big as food, probably bigger, I think, this huge industry could institutionalize the idea of dreaming. Like literally there's a budget line and a team devoted to dreaming and putting out concepts out there. These aren't production vehicles. These are just meant to show a future that's more optimistic, a future that's better than what we have today. And that really blew my mind about the auto industry. Fast forward more years for me starting my career out in food, and I remember going to early food conferences that are kind of analogous to the auto show, and I remember going for the first time and saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see the concepts." And then I didn't see them. I didn't see anything like it. I saw a lot of this stuff. I saw incremental stuff. And I was wondering, where are the dreamers in food? Where are the concepts in food? This really shaped a mantra for how we innovate and how we work with people, big and small, in the food industry. It's that better innovation in food today starts with more ambitious thinking about tomorrow. Some of the smartest, most talented people that I know work in the food industry, they have so many resources, and it's really just a matter of how far can you look ahead? How ambitiously can you think? Instead of thinking 3 inches ahead, how can you think 10 feet ahead? And this really shaped how we do things at Studio Industries and at the Future Market. So the Future Market is that thing that I wanted to see in food. And no client came to me and asked me for it, so I said, let's just create it. The Future Market is a conceptual grocery store. It's a place for concept food products to exist. A place where we can say, what would happen in 10 years in the food industry in terms of a product? How will we shop? How will we eat? And let's have a place that we can put this. We build conceptual products and experiences that explore the implications of food systems change. So we want to take things like climate change, population growth, hunger, nutrition, food waste, really big issues that are very daunting and kind of almost abstract to people. And we want to say, how does that distill into a box on the shelf that you can consume? Because all of this stuff is interwoven, right? The purpose of the Future Market is really to have a CPG, consumer packaged goods kind of layer on some of these big, daunting issues that we face in the food industry. A lot of people ask me, what do you think the future of food is? It's a lot of things, but I think the one thing that lays the groundwork of how we view the future is this. We strive for a future of food that's better for planet, people, and profit. We're really good today at getting 1 or 2 of these. In the future, I think it's a necessary condition to get all 3 of these as a food brand, big or small. So the food industry, I think, needs this, because this is typically what food innovation looks like in the industry. As they get bigger, they get less risky. Food innovation looks like this as well, too. Products designed by committee. Truly original triangle ideas turn into squares that are just kind of red versus black. We wanted to shift this, and we know that there's a lot riding on innovations like this. Incremental innovation has its place, it has to happen. But while people are doing this and managing the business, we wanted to make sure we're shocking the system and showing them much more ambitious visions beyond how to turn triangles into squares. So we said, how might we use concept products to inspire and illustrate the potential of new food ideas? If you build it, can people see what you're talking about instead of talking about it? And how do we get people to look ahead instead of just at their feet? To act like Google with self-driving cars. To act like Amazon with a delivery drone. How do we bring that back into food? That's the question and the purpose of the future market and the concept products that we build. We're opening up our first pop-up at the Fancy Food Show here in Javits Center, June 25th to 27th, where you'll get to see over 21 concept products and a new way of shopping for food that's completely personalized to how you, as a person, react to food. A lot of what we do is what we call amplifying weak signals. So there's tons of little signals out there today, little things about how people eat. People are eating paleo, people are eating Whole30, doing this, doing that. Little technologies around cellular agriculture, lab-grown meat, vertical farming. These are sort of nascent, weak signals. They're small signals, and what we do by thinking 25 years out, 10 years out, 50 years out, is we amplify that and we say, what happens when a little idea today becomes a mainstream idea tomorrow? And we amplify those weak signals so you can see it at a higher resolution and much more detail. So you look at things like this, vertical farming. This is a concept drawing of what happens with arrow farms out in Newark, huge vertical farms. That's what's happening today. This is the weak signal today. We amplify that and we say, what happens when that becomes nanoscale? What happens when you can grow a farm on the size of your toaster at home? What happens when a weak signal like eubiome and the microbiome, the sum total of your microbes in your body, which eubiome measures through a stool sample, which is the most inelegant kind of process possible right now. What happens when that becomes more mainstream, where you could swallow a pill in disposable format and buy them a week at a time and have that measure your microbiome? What would you do with that data? Would you disrupt something like yogurt, where you could take yogurt, instead of having one-size-fits-all yogurt, you could have custom cultured yogurt that fits your microbiome, depending on what your body needs? Could you do the same thing with energy bars? Instead of just a one-size-fits-all cluster of food, could you cluster something that was completely precision for you? What about the world of cellular agriculture, lab-grown meat, right? This is a weak signal today. What happens when this technology becomes mature and you can start doing things like multiplying Wagyu steaks and selling them off the shelf for an affordable price? These are the kinds of things that we do at the future market, amplifying weak signals now and making them bigger in the future. Now, a lot of the stuff that we did, as I mentioned here, focuses on systems change. So, there's a lot of arcane ideas, and I often joke that some of the most interesting opportunities in food are actually the least sexy ones, and biodiversity is one of them. People love talking about lab-grown meat because it's sort of sci-fi, but nobody likes to talk about biodiversity. So we wanted to change that, and we created a product called Three Sisters, Polyculture Polenta. Now, to understand this product, you first have to understand the idea of a monoculture, which is the majority of how crops are grown today. And basically that means on one plot of land, you grow the same crop over and over again. And as a result, to do that, the soil isn't designed for that. The soil needs diversity. So as a result of monoculture, you have to do things like pummel it with pesticides, with fertilizer to support the soil, because you're growing in a monoculture, one crop at a time. 75% of the world's food is generated from only 12 plants and 5 animal species. So pardon the pun, but we're putting all of our eggs in one basket, and this is the effects of monoculture. It's come and bit us in the ass before in the form of things like the Irish potato famine. The Irish potato famine happened because they had one monoculture of potato, and one disease flipped a switch and negated out all that potato, instead of having a diverse set of crops where you can't wipe out as easily. So we said, how about we design food products that have empathy for nature? As designers, we always think about empathy for the user, but I posit that maybe in food we've had too much empathy for the user at points, and we need to design products that have more empathy for nature and agriculture. How might we scale biodiversity? This whole biodiverse way of planting happens, but it doesn't happen at scale. So what happens if you collide the idea of biodiversity, a small idea, with a billion-dollar brand? What if we replace monoculture products with polyculture products? You might get something that looks like this. This is the Three Sisters. Three Sisters are a group of crops, corn, beans, and squash, where you grow them together, and they form a symbiotic relationship. The corn forms a stalk where the beans climb up. The beans supply nitrogen to the soil, which supplies nutrition for the hungry corn plant. And then the squash leaves hang out by the ground layer, keep moisture in, and keep pests away. It's a beautiful form of agriculture that's been done for thousands of years, but nobody farms this way anymore. So what if we said, let's take corn, beans, and squash, three simple ingredients, and say, let's design something that looks like this. Three Sisters Polyculture Polenta. Now you'll notice that there's nothing edgy about this. Polenta is not sexy. This branding is not sexy. We do this purposefully, because we always say, you know an idea has really sunk in when it becomes mainstream and boring. And we wanted to say that this idea in the future is not wild and crazy, it's just mundane, as a box of oatmeal would be buying today. It's just mundane. We previewed this in Milan, Italy, at a food conference called Seeds and Chips. Trust me, you haven't lived until you've tried to sell Italians polenta. But it went over really well. Produce Pro is another concept that we built out about retail grocery telepresence. We love going to supermarkets, but they haven't changed in forever. We love going to open air markets because you get this person in front of you. You get this real reaction that you get to experience with the food and people. We love farmers markets for all of this stuff, right? The reaction that you get to ask questions with the farmer. Unfortunately, that doesn't really happen in a produce department at a grocery store. So what we did was we used off-the-shelf technology and built a simple telepresence system in the produce stand so that you could hold up a piece of produce and tap a button and ask somebody about it. Ask them what's the nutritional value. Ask somebody what to do with it. What is this? It was a successful pilot that we piloted at a produce show, and then it got piloted in a small version at Whole Foods. We also do experiences. The Future of Protein dinner was a dinner we did last year, and we call this a series of edible memes. Some people call it a tasting menu. We call them edible memes. The Future of Protein, 7-course meal, all edible artifacts from the past, present, and future. We wanted to see where are we in the state of protein in the past, where are we today, and where are we headed in the future, and each course outlined a different era. Dinners are a really important part of our toolkit because we think it's very important to bring food systems issues down to human scale. Food system is really a paradox because it's one of the biggest industries in the world, yet it ends up in the most intimate experience possible, in your mouth. So we really think it's important to say, it's great to talk about climate change, it's great to talk about resources, but you gotta make it real for people, and you gotta put it on the plate. So this is why we do dinners. We had a 27-foot surround sound screen that kind of gave a different scene for every era. This is the 1950s. I talked about the Green Revolution. We recreated a television dinner. This is actually grass-fed steak and heirloom vegetables. So we literally remixed the TV dinner. We talked about resource use between meat and vegetables. The little sliver of ribeye right there and the giant pile of vegetables were served side by side. These two things take the same amount of oil to create. So we really wanted to drive home this idea of things like beef are much more resource intensive versus vegetables. We talk about things getting really boring, and we think, people are really interested in eating insects right now. People think this is the future. It's really kind of wild and salacious, and people kind of make a big fear factor deal out of it. We said, what's the most boring dish we can serve insects in? We serve pasta and sauce and bread. So this is pasta, sauce, and bread, and all of it's made entirely from insects. The pasta is made from insects. The mealworm bolognese is on top, and then that bread is made from cricket flour. Better innovation in food today starts with more ambitious thinking about tomorrow. This is what we do at the Future Market. I'll leave you with one last allegory, and that's the story of Martin Cooper. He was heading up Motorola R&D labs in the 70s, and he's the father of the American cell phone, the thing that changed the world forever. And what's fascinating beyond that is not just that he had the audacity and the talent to invent the cell phone, but he's gone on record numerous times, you can YouTube this, saying that his main inspiration for the cell phone was Captain Kirk. That's an early model of the StarTAC right there, basically. But we wanted to create a tighter loop between the Captain Kirks and the Martin Coopers of the world, because we think there's value in these ambitious visions and how they can inspire people with the right wherewithal and talent to act upon them and make really breakthrough innovations happen. This is what we do with the Future Market. This is also what we do with Alpha Food Labs, a new business we just launched that links large corporations and food with food startups. And all of what we do is really designed to create this link. We want to be the Captain Kirk to the Martin Cooper. Thank you.